And she's back!
Hello.
This is my daughter Molly, and this is our second installment of our Paganini Challenge series, where we are each learning a piece based on the Paganini Caprices. Greetings, music lovers. Rick Ferguson, rickfergusonmusic.com. You're learning a Paganini Caprice. Remind us which one you're doing.
Number 20.
So the beautiful D major in number 20, and then you chose for me as my penance the La Campanella Liszt-Paganini Etudes.
Super easy.
Exactly. And so we're just going to check in and share where we both are right now, and I'm going to go ahead and admit that you are further along with your Caprice than I am with my Etude. But I have to say, first of all, I want to thank you for choosing that particular one, because I am learning so much. Seriously, I'm learning so much about how to practice Liszt in particular, and about Liszt compositional process, which I'll talk about later in this video just a little bit. And that will be the geeky section. So first, we will we'll hear you just talk a little bit about where you are and what's going on with your Caprice right now. So give us just a brief update.
Yeah, so I worked on the whole thing at this point. I don't have the whole thing ready at all. The first few lines, like the more lyrical section, is fine for the most part. I am having trouble with kind of the bowing aspect of it, and like the articulation. I think that at this point is the hardest thing for me, just because there's a lot of like repeated up-bow staccato, and it's hooked, and that's hard for me, especially at fast tempos. So
can you describe for non-string players when you're talking about hooking the bow?
Yeah, so that basically just means that you don't change the direction of the bow while you're playing. So if I had 3 notes, they'd all be in the same direction. So I wouldn't 1, 2, 3. I'd go 1, 2, 3, I guess.
That sounds sort of hard, actually.
Yeah.
That's going at a quick rate of speed, right? All right. So the idea with, in the case of the La Campanella, Liszt using it as an etude, well, etudes are by definition studies that allow us to explore technical and or musical challenges, right? To improve those things. So in terms of this specific Caprice, how do you feel your own technical and musical skills beginning to expand just by studying it?
Yeah, so definitely a lot more attention to my bow hand and like the flexibility of my fingers in general, because to allow for the sound to be good when you're doing those hooked bows, you have to have a lot of finger flexibility to keep the bow going. And so I've had to work on that separately to kind of incorporate it into the Caprice, and so that's also showed up in other things that I'm working on.
Okay, all right. Yes, as is often the case, when we begin to seriously develop some skill sets with one piece or study or whatever, then they of course transfer to so many other things. So it's time well spent. Well, shall we do like just a couple of short examples from the... Okay, all right. So we're going to do just a couple of short little sections, right?
We are.
And we've got the opening.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do the opening, and then I'm going to do the 4th line, which is like the introductory to the fast. Well, not the fast, the whole, it's all fast, but the fast part. And then I'm going to do the second to last line, which just has a lot of like weird intonation things and like different keys and stuff.
So sort of highlighting the challenges.
Is that modulation?
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that modulates a lot. Lots of accidentals. So, okay. So I'm going to start with the first line. This is like the really slow section. So it's not as hard, but it comes with its own stuff.
What do you love about the opening of this one?
I really like just how lyrical it is, and it also, the open D provides like a drone.
Okay.
So it's easier to stay in tune. Because if I didn't have that, I don't know what would happen. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So the drone sounds beautiful, but it also provides intonation support.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So. The first line.
So you're really sustaining sound in this opening, right?
And something that's really important is that there's a specific shift down that I have trouble with. That's where I messed up. And I always shift with my arm instead of shifting with my wrist. And shifting with your wrist helps you stay more in tune. Shifting with your arm, you're like kind of no man's land a little bit. So, yeah, I have to work on that.
And there are similarities to the piano. Actually, I'll be talking about that exact same idea with the piano stuff.
Like the difference between here. That's like with arm.
Yeah. Oh, so you just have no control to know where you're going to land.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So.
I'm learning about violin playing. This is exciting.
Yeah. Okay, and then we get to the fast part. This is where the up bow staccato, like the hooked staccato comes. So there's basically just a lot of so and a lot of the times I have a hard time like keeping it up because it sometimes just goes on the string. And so I've been practicing something called collé.
And what is that?
So it's basically, you can do it with, I've been doing it with my scales too, just to practice them. So basically, you start here and you just, with your fingers.
Yeah.
So you don't use your arm. So,
oh, that's cool.
And it helps with finger flexibility because that's what you need. You know.
Yeah.
So that's
wow. That's a really specific technique.
Yeah. So and that yeah. Okay. So I'll just play this. We're gonna pretend. We're gonna pretend that was good, but here. Yeah. So that's what that is.
And then you said there's a third sort of challenge.
Yeah, and also I'm just gonna talk about the collé. It comes more into play in the 6th line because that's we have, but that whole downward scale is hooked. So so you have to like keep it going or else your bow will skid.
So it seems to me that this caprice is just like all about like various types of bow control.
Yeah, it's and then sorry, I'm like talking. So it's there's a section so so it's a lot of up bows in a row, and you have to like control it so it doesn't. You're not going.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it literally looks like the bow is dancing all over the instrument, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then the really technical challenge. Well, it's more intonation. It's not so much bow. We have a whole line where it just like modulates in different keys, and it's really weird. So that's like the second to last line too. And that also actually incorporates some of the bow because it's, you know.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you're just really learning a lot of new stuff in this piece, which is the wonderful thing about Etudes. All right. And as far as the La Campanella by Liszt is concerned, I have been reminded of some really wonderful aspects that really show us what an incredible composer Franz Liszt was. In particular, this idea of thematic transformation, right? And at its core, and this is grossly oversimplifying, but as its core, it is taking generally two thematic ideas, generally two melodic ideas, and developing them in one way or another in parallel throughout a piece. And then there is a synthesis. There is oftentimes a coming together at the end of the piece where these two motives meet. And La Campanella actually is a wonderful example of that kind of thematic transformational composition process. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. So from a musical standpoint, we have this first opening motive, and that motive then is presented several times throughout the piece, but it's shown to us in various ways. Most often in this piece as a rhythmic development, right? And so it's shown to us in the same tune, but dressed up rhythmically a little bit differently every time, right? And then there is the second motive, which is shifting from the home key, the G sharp minor, to B major, to the relative major, and it's more playful, right? So basically we just have various versions of, right? So that secondary tune has a different quality to it, a different character, and then how these two thematic ideas are revisited throughout the core of the piece, the course of the piece, and then drawn together at the end is really fun. Now, as far as how to practice this piece, one thing that I have noticed time and again when I've been practicing it thus far, and I'm still not terribly far along with it, but it is absolute lightness of touch for so much of it, to create a certain kind of lighter resonance, but then also efficiency of motion. There really can be no wasted motion in a piece like this at all, right? And so there is so much lateral movement across the keyboard, and it starts rather simply, with the idea of the bells beginning from a distance, right? So it's just simply, right? Which just sort of like creates an atmosphere. And then out of that, we have this opening motive that just begins to emerge from the fog. And so, it's this constant motion back and forth. And one way that I found, at least in the opening third of the etude, is to vary the rhythms. And of course, pianists are doing this all the time, and not only pianists, but I found that it's been very helpful just for me to notice where I tend to have less efficient motions when I'm playing, right? So for instance, if I practice this in a dotted rhythm, well, that forces my fingers, it forces my hand to have to react, and I can observe that reaction, right? So if I'm doing it in a dotted rhythm, sorry. And that also allows me, because Liszt has indicated that, of course, the melody here is with the right thumb, and so, trying to voice that just a little bit, well, if I shift that dotted rhythm around, my hand is reacting very differently. So I'm working on the other end of the motion, getting my hand moving up to the higher note. Then I've also found that working in various groupings. So for instance, if I practice in 2 rhythmic groupings per measure, well, then that begins to become extremely interesting, right? Or if I move to the end of a grouping, well, then my hand again is having to react differently, is having to acclimate to the different types of gestures that I'm working with rhythmically. And so anything I'm finding, at least so far, anything that I can do to cause my hands to have to react differently, right? And play these different rhythmic patterns, it's very helpful for me to see where either I tend to like miss a gesture, miss notes, and then think, okay, why am I doing that? What am I doing in my gesture that's causing that, right? And then it begins to also help me think, okay, like what kind of sound do I actually want to create in this section? You know, in this secondary idea, it really is to a great extent a different type of thing, because we're working with different rhythmic figures, although we're still initially keeping the leaping and jumping just a little bit. So efficiency is so important. So in this, right, so we've got the melody there, but then I've got to get up here as well, right? One thing that I have noticed, at least to start to get the notes into my fingers in the secondary idea, is actually doubling the notes. Playing everything twice, just to see if I can do it. And I find that that at least initially helps to begin to solidify it in my fingers. So then here, like that, playing everything twice, that has been a very, very helpful practice. So in the next video, what I would like to do is to go through in more detail and show how Liszt applies this idea of thematic transformation throughout the entire etude, and then, more importantly, how he synthesizes those ideas at the end. And it really is absolutely marvelous. It's such a well-balanced piece. It's such a beautifully crafted arrangement that Liszt has created out of Paganini's Caprice, right? And he's made it so pianistically rapturous that it really is, while being, of course, you know, a significant challenge. I'm learning so much about Liszt and about his pianistic thinking and about his relationship, you know, to the keyboard. And oftentimes I think that in the creation of etudes, a composer can often reveal so much about themselves in terms of their relationship to the instrument that they're writing for with that particular etude. And that's certainly the case with this. So I hope that has been somewhat informative, and I'm just going to keep at it. And right now, I think that Molly is well ahead of me, and so I've got my work cut out for me. So that's where we are right now with our respective pieces. We've decided that this is obviously the second of what will be 4 installments, should I live that long. And so we will try to check in with another sort of update where we are, and then our final will be a performance. Oh my. So thank you for listening. This is a lot of fun. If you have any of your own trials and tribulations relative to any of the Liszt etudes, any things you want to know about with the Paganini Caprices, let me know. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
Like, share, and comment.
Yes. Bye.